Hi, I'm James, and in this video we're working on this, which is the Dell Inspiron 153510 laptop. So to start off with, we're going to remove the screws from the base, excluding these two in the top corner. To do this, we are using a Phillips size O screwdriver bit and a plastic pry tool. And I will put a link in the description to all the parts used and featured in this video, at least where possible, to help you if you are needing to source any parts to do this work. So all the screws in the base here are the same, but I just put them to one side in the positions that they came out, just to make things easier later. We're then going to remove the central one at the back. And with that done, we can then turn our attention to these two. Now these two are retained, so as we undo them, we will hear a slight click, and the base begins to lift from the chassis in the corners. Same again on this side, and that is because these screws, as they undo, actually start to remove the base plate. So with that done, we're going to take our pry tool, and we are then going to get in and basically start working along each side. So we're going to get it in the gap and just begin pressing it in and gently working along, trying to release the plastic clips from, first of all, each side. So having done that, we can then go to the other side. Okay, with both sides done, we're then going to work along the back. We should find here it's already opened a bit of a gap. Doing the back isn't too hard. It's a little easier on this one because I have already had the back off while doing my main review video. Do check that out on the channel if you want to see that as well. So with that done, we're not just going to pull it off because that risks damaging some of the front clips. Instead, we're going to get the pry tool and just try and get it in. Might get a different one because this one's missing some sections. So get the pry tool in at the front and just slide it along while pulling the base away, and with that we have got inside with minimal damage to any of the clips. So once inside, our first job is going to be to disconnect the battery. This is just sensible. It means you're going to avoid any accidental powering on of the system, particularly with Dells, where if you open the hinge for any reason, they often have a habit of switching on. I'm not sure if this one does. I haven't checked the BIOS options for it, but just helps avoid any accidents. So, looking at how to carry out repairs on this system, the first thing we're going to do, and probably the most commonly required, is going to be to replace the battery. So, if we remove this connector here, we can unplug the hard drive cable, and I'm just going to use one of my metal pry tools to hold that out of the way. With that done, we can then remove the three screws that hold in the battery. This is a type G91J0 Dell battery. If you search for the model of the machine and the battery, you should find it. And what we need to do, obviously just removing the battery is a simple case of lifting it out, but when this is out, what we need to do is take this cable off, which replacement batteries do not come with this cable because they use the same battery in multiple models. Sometimes the mainboard battery connection is in a different place, so they vary the cable on them. So we just, down here on the connector, need to push both sides of this down, and that frees that cable. We can then just unhook it from these four hooks and pull the cable out, and then if we were taking our new battery, we would simply fit that in and push the little clasp up, and then push the cable back into the routing. What we're going to do is pop the battery to one side for now, and we're going to look at replacing the touchpad. Now while I'm doing this, what I'm going to do is just slip in a small anti-static bag, and from here we then are just going to first of all unhook this connector here, So lift up that latch, being careful not to damage it, and slide out the touchpad connector. What I'm actually going to do is just unhook it from the main board end as well, just to keep it out of the way and make things a little easier. Our next job is we have 3 screws at the bottom here. So we're just going to remove this. So with those 3 removed, our next job is just to undo the other 2 screws either side. And with that complete, so we should be able to remove this bottom cover, and then with that done, we should just be able to, probably easier to do this opening the laptop up and pressing from below. So press the front edge of the laptop up and we can slot out the touchpad. To fit it back in, we simply slot it in under these black plastic clips and drop it down into position over these little mounting lugs, and then reverse the process. So we refit the 2 either side, and then the 3 here. So refit this metal cover, and then again the 3 screws that hold it in place. So pretty simple to get the touchpad out and replaced. While the battery is out, we're then going to also look, so if we for any reason needed to replace the speakers, so we're just going to let that cable come back down. So we have here the speaker cable, and this can be gently slid out of its socket and pulled up, and we can then unroute the cable, and these 2 speakers are joined together, so there's only a single cable joining them, and here we just along the front unroute the cable that runs all the way round to the right speaker, and again just lift that out where it's on these little rubber mounts, and then to replace it, fit it back in over those lugs, feed this cable back into its channel, so just using the end of the pry tool just to press it down into these little mounting points, which just keep it clear from being clamped in the base or anything like that. So with it pressed back into those, what's left to do is work the main connector back into place. And refit on this end. Other way up, sorry. Nope, right first time. And refit on this end. So it's all hard to do this without blocking the camera, but we're just going to slide that across. and slot it up into the slot. Of course, while we're doing all of this, lastly we need to refit the touchpad connector. So slot it in on the mainboard end, make sure this is lifted on the touchpad, slot into place. It has to go in the sort of little lip where it slides in, it has to go under the plastic around the connector, so underneath these little bits here, and then press down firmly. The next thing, which is commonly damaged on Dell laptops, is this DC jack. Often if the machine's plugged in, someone trips over the lead and this connector will get snapped off inside. So what we're going to do is undo this left-hand hinge, or right as we're looking at it, and with that undone we can then lever the hinge open, and we'll see here we have the DC jack and its connector. So we can just push either side of the little edge of the connector there to undo that, and then thread this cable out and gently a little tricky just to, so pushing out with the tip of the pry tool there helped. So lift out the connector, and then to reset the new one, just press it in over that little lug. We're going to thread the sticker in under the board as the machine originally had it, and route round this cable. Goes behind these little plastic mounting point or lugs here, and then slot it back in there. With that done, we can just close the hinge back over, making sure it goes through onto that lug there, and refit the two screws. Now the final easily replaceable part of this machine, and one which again you will sometimes find it gets damaged if something gets snapped in the headphone jack or maybe broken off in this USB port. The USB 3 ports aren't really repairable on this because they're part of the main board, so unless you have the tools required for doing that, it would be a mainboard replacement. But this I/O board here is relatively easy to replace. So again, we are going to remove screws from the hinge, and then pull open this hinge as far as we can. Our next job is then to disconnect this I/O cable and slot it out, and then we have 3 screws holding in the I/O board. So 1, 2, 3. With that done, it's a simple case of lifting out the board, and to replace it simply reinsert as so. This also serves, I believe, as the power button, so the if you have a power button fault, this can be the replacement as well. So screwing that back down into place. And then we're just going to slot back in the I/O board connector, close back up that hinge, again making sure it slots over that lug, and reinsert the 2 screws. The third mounting hole, the base goes through, so that is why that one has nothing in it. Finally, we can take our battery and we will slot that back into place. So making sure it goes in bottom end, or base first, and then press it down into position and refit the 3 screws. And having done that, we're then going to pull back across this cable and slot, although it's not connected, it's always good to just make sure it's there's no drive in here at the moment, make sure it's fitted back in place. And finally, having done all that, we are going to reconnect the battery, again using this just to try and make it easier for you to see. So slotting the battery in, battery connector in like so. And with that done, we're ready to refit the base. And then we're going to start by pushing down on this front edge and engaging the clips there. And then pressing down. Don't press down in these corners with the retained screws. They will kind of clip in as the screws do their work. And we're going to start with those. Just get the corners down like so. Make sure the sides and front you're all happy with. Same on the other side. And from here it's a simple task of refitting the remaining 7 screws and you should all be done. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have, do let me know in the comments. Let me know what it helped you do. Hit like if you have found it helped, and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos as we post them. Thanks for watching.